Welcome to Retire Smart with David Brooks. I'm Chip Maxwell. David, it's another busy week. It's a busy month at Retire Smart. We just had another round of Social Security classes, and here we come again this week. We've got ABCs of Medicare, Tuesday, November 14th, or Wednesday, November 15th, 6:30 p.m., right here in the Midwest Learning Center at Retire Smart. And then the next day, Thursday, November 16th, Smart Insurance Planning. We offer that at 10 a.m. or 6:30 p.m., also in the Midwest Learning Center right here at Retire Smart. Now, financial advisor Dustin Galvin teaches our Medicare class, but he is now joined by Kyle Schroeder. Kyle's going to join us next week on the radio, but just quickly, David, tell folks, what does Kyle bring to the table when it comes to Medicare?
He's kind of a resident expert on Medicare in particular. He dives really deep into the Part D side, which is, he brings an immense amount of knowledge there, which is your drug card and the amount of expenses you're going to expect to pay out of pocket, both for copays and for those that used to go into what we call the donut hole. He'll explain all of that, but he can also help people understand just how to save money by just making sure you're in the right plan, and he can do it pretty quickly and efficiently. So really excited to have Kyle joining the team.
Well, that's Tuesday, November 4th, or Wednesday, November 15th, 6:30 p.m., right here in the Midwest Learning Center at Retire Smart, the ABCs of Medicare. It's no charge, it's no obligation. It's open to the public as well as our clients, but you must call to register, 402-369-7777. And the same thing goes for Smart Insurance Planning. The next day, the 16th of November, 10 a.m. or 6:30 p.m. in the Midwest Learning Center, 402-369-7777. And Michael Luna, the director of Smart Protection, our insurance division, he'll join us in the next segment of the show to give you more details on what to expect in the insurance class. Now, David, that Midwest Learning Center gets a workout with our classes, but we did something fun on Friday there, the Shoebox Project, also known as Operation Christmas Child. Would you quickly tell, we had about 24 clients in here helping on that. Tell the folks what that was all about.
That's actually, it's one of our favorite charities, Samaritan's Purse. They've been doing this for years, Operation Christmas Child.
That's Franklin Graham, right? The son of Billy Graham?
Yep, they're headquartered out of Charlotte, North Carolina. My wife and I have participated in this program for many, many years. Our kids when they were younger, so going back 2 decades ago, you basically put together a shoebox worth of goodies, and it not only include a little bit of toys and some fun stuff, but I mean some basic necessities: toothpaste, a toothbrush, a comb, some things, and they get shipped around the world to a unfortunate child who's never probably received a gift in their life. And the great thing is they've gotten this thing so down, Chip, you can select what age group you would like to provide for. Like we chose, I think, 5 to 9 year olds this year.
Yes.
You can select genders if you want sometimes, and then they will actually give you tracking on the packages, and you can follow your package as it gets delivered to a child, in a foreign land, and just to get the experience of joy. And Samaritan's Purse is just about spreading the love of Jesus. There's no hardcore message that goes with these. This is just showing, hey, love God, love people, right? So it's an amazing way, and we're just blessed that we've got so many clients that came in to help us this week and facilitate that. So we stepped up in a big way. I've never sent this many, so we're sending over 100 boxes across the country. By the way, if you'd like to donate to our cause, you're welcome to send in a donation to Samaritan's Purse and send it right to our office, because it costs about $10 just to get these things transported, each box, around the world, and shipping costs, et cetera. So, but anyway, if you want details on that, just follow up. But it's a great cause, and it's really great to see some video of these kids opening these presents.
At the website, you have some video like that. My children were these children. Third world orphanage, wearing hand-me-downs, scruffy clothes, never having anything new or shiny or good, and to open something new, a gift for you, it's a fantastic project. Thank you to all of our clients that help. Just one of the many ways that Retire Smart interacts and gives back to the community locally, nationally, globally. It's part of our culture here at Retire Smart, and it was a heck of a lot of fun as well. All right, well, so much for the happy talk, David. Into the news we go, and just a quick footnote here to get things rolling. I thought it was going to be in 2026. You said recently, no, actually, it's going to happen sooner, like 2024. Well, now here comes the headline from Bloomberg. U.S. debt interest bill rockets past a cool $1 trillion a year. We've already hit $1 trillion. This is just interest payment on the debt.
Yeah, and I was talking here just a month ago that we were calculating it was going to be around Thanksgiving next year, and people were like, "Oh, it's not going to go that fast." And here's Bloomberg saying it's actually 14% up from their most recent adjustment here.
Oh my goodness!
And this is because of Janet Yellen floating over $2.1 billion since the debt ceiling argument that just happened back in June, and then announced another 700 plus billion before this year is up, and then another 1.2 billion before March. I mean, and so you've got to pay interest, and you're financing. And on top of that, folks, we have to refinance about $6.7 trillion of current debt at these rates. So when you compound all that up, it's $1 trillion plus in interest, and that's accelerating every minute, every hour. This is the number one issue I would tell people should be voting on next year. It's not gender, abortion rights, political things, the wars. This debt ceiling is the issue of our times. And if people don't get their head on it and understand it, it is going to be we're not going to be able to recover from it. I mean, it's getting to the point, and David Walker spoke to some of this when he did the event for us back in September, and people need to wake up and understand how crucial this is. I would call your congressman, left, right, indifferent, politically speaking, and say you're concerned.
Well, since we're on this, let's go there now, because you mentioned this in passing last week. We were talking about managing deficits and debt and so forth, and that Stanley Druckenmiller he was triggered by Janet Yellen's approach to, well, he called it the biggest blunder in Treasury history. This is in Fortune magazine. And let's stop on that and make sure we understand. David, what is it exactly that triggered Druckenmiller?
Well, look, interest rates were basically at near or at zero, or even 30-year debt was basically only about 2.5%. So every Tom, Dick, and Harry, as Druckenmiller talked about in the article, if you had a mortgage, you probably refinanced. If you had a mortgage above 5%, you most likely refinanced, as long as you had the fiscal ability to do so, sub 3%. I know. I did. I took a mortgage out on my house. It didn't have one at 2.5% because it was at 2.5%. And my wife is still to this day, I want you to pay that off. I'm like, why? I have the money for that mortgage sitting in a treasury right now earning 5.4%.
So you're winning on that deal.
So why would I want to do that? Mm-hmm. But I understand she loves the peace of mind being debt free, and we own several homes, rental properties. We don't have debt on them. But, and I wish I took debt out on them now, because the arbitrage, you can get interest rates. But so businesses refinance their debt. People refinance their debt. Why didn't the Treasury Department, under her tutelage, knowing the spending that she was for? It's not like they wake up, oh, we got bills to pay tomorrow. No, I'm pretty sure you would know what's going on. Maybe it's the fact that nobody, Republican or Democrat, has passed a budget since 2008. Maybe that's a problem, but a story for another day. But so what he called her out is, this is the biggest blunder in history. And now you're seeing the fruits of it, because now they're forced to refinance this debt at significantly higher rates. And this will literally bankrupt us, turn us into Venezuela if it continues on this path. So some serious cuts have to be made. And again, this is where politicians are going to have to start to talk the talk and really walk the walk on what are you going to do, because the entitlement programs will bankrupt us in less than 10 years.
Well, this is especially aggravating for those of us at a financial planning firm, because this is the whole message is be proactive, look ahead, plan ahead.
I mean, the idea that I would ask a client to come hand over their life savings, and they're like, what's the plan? It's Friday. I'll check Monday, and I'm going to take the weekend off, and then just work day to day on the plan. That's insanity, and so, and for him to call someone of his stature, and if you don't know who Stanley Druckenmiller is, he's a legendary investor, all across the globe. And for him to call her out like that, I mean, I'm sure in the back room there was some fine words said back and forth from the camps, if you will. And he's not exactly like a fiscal conservative himself. He's mainly donated to Democratic folks on the political front when you look at his history. But this is it's a time for an awakening, and people need to get in charge of budgets. And that goes for our local folks too. Your school boards, your mayors, your county representatives, they are all planning their budgets right now on current valuations. If you think the housing market is not going to go through a correction nationwide, and these valuations will reset, which means lower tax base, lower tax income, You know, who's going to pay for this stuff? We just unveiled this past week, Chip, here are the streetcar designs and what have you. No, that's a thorn in my side.
Easy.
Well, I'm sorry, but I mean, you're in la la land if you think this stuff is free.
David, what about the job market? The October number came out, 150,000. Fox Business. U.S. job growth cools in October to 150,000, while unemployment unexpectedly rises. Well, my question is, so is this the job number, or will it be revised downward? That keeps happening over and over.
It was actually already revised. We just got our 9th consecutive revision of negative job numbers.
Yeah.
Now, there's 2 ways they do these surveys. The Department of Bureau and Labor Statistics does they call corporate America and do surveys, and then we do what's called the household survey. Okay, there's 2 different surveys. The household survey shows we lost 348,000 jobs last month, Chip. Lost 348,000 jobs. That's a big disparity between there's always a disparity. So just understand, the household survey, we call you the employed person or used to be employed person and find out what happened to you. The companies report based on their payroll numbers. Well, I'll have you know, when you file to fire more than 100 people, you have to file what's called a war report. It's a warning of layoffs, and you have to do it to your state or to the federal government, depending on your size of your company. And this is for companies that are going to lay off more than 100. Now, they used to only have to do it for 100 in a state, but now they have to do it, the Biden administration, when they do over 100 anywhere. So if a manufacturer was going to lay off 10 people in Lincoln, Nebraska, and 40 people over in Des Moines, and 20 people down, and it was over 100, they didn't have to file if it wasn't 100 state. Now they do. And when they do that, they are required to give severance at these large employers. And the severance packages on most of these layoffs are typically 3 to 6 months of severance. Well, when you're on severance, you're still counted as employed on the payroll service department of that corporation. So they still count you.
That's a suspect number then.
It's absolutely a suspect. So the household survey is telling you where we're going. Again, neither one of them is accurate. They are surveys, okay? Which is why there's always revisions, right? Because we get more accurate information once the data is completely sealed. But to go from saying we created 150,000 jobs to the reality that we lost 350,000 jobs, that's a 500,000 job swing in 1 month. And again, the Biden administration was touting over 4 million new jobs created since he took office, yet tax receipts are down 14%. Income tax receipts, that's where the proof is in the pudding. If we had 4 million more people working, paying income taxes, shouldn't we have more income revenue for the government?
Right. The jobs aren't that great.
So these people that are still telling you they think there's a soft landing, they're in la la land.
Well, okay, soft. Maybe it's a soft job market. You sent me a couple stories from CNBC. One about Citigroup slashing people by the thousands. Maersk, the Danish shipping giant, 18% and cut 10,000 job cuts. Are we looking at a soft job market?
Very soft, globally? Very quickly. We're going into a full bore recession, and it's going to get really, really ugly. And I'm telling you now, this is what's coming. And regardless of what you hear, the Citigroup, by the way, was not announced. It got leaked from a memo, and they had to face and so they called it Project Bora Bora. They are going to fire over 10% of Citigroup's entire U.S. workforce. This is well over 10,000 jobs will be lost from it. And now they're going to move forward now that it got leaked and just start cutting people from it. And I just cracked up at Bora Bora because I think that's where the executives are going to go vacation while everybody else is trying to find out how to pay for their groceries at 20% higher prices, right? And then you saw the largest shipping container company in the world, Maersk, their stock got whacked 18% in one day. They're firing 10,000 workers. And we saw the yellow trucking, 30,000 jobs lost, right? Yeah. Transports are telling you what's coming. Recession is coming. Shipping dropping off. Trucking dropping off. That's who's delivering, folks, your goods and services. We're going into Christmas. Don't you think this is when the transports should do well, should be going up if we're going to have a great holiday season? Well, it's not happening, right? And so it's going to get ugly. And I'm just trying to make sure people understand. I've not been I've not had a lot of good news to share this year on the radio about the economy, and somebody's made fun of me here or there once in a while for it, but I'm like, I just read the data and tell you what I see,
Well, don't be blindsided. Don't let your retirement portfolio be blindsided. Get the complimentary report card, 402-369-7777. No charge, no obligation. We'll look at your whole situation. Maybe you're in good shape. Maybe you need to make some changes given what's happening in the world, and we'll offer recommendations on what you might want to do next. The complimentary report card, 402-369-7777. Up next, Retire Smart wants to be your one-stop shop for all your financial matters. That includes insurance. Stay tuned for another visit with Michael Luna of Smart Protection. You're listening to Retire Smart with David Brooks. Welcome back to Retire Smart with David Brooks. I'm Chip Maxwell. The R in a SMART plan stands for risk management. It is vital that you are properly insured so that your retirement nest egg is not wiped out by an unexpected damage claim against you. We have someone on our Retire Smart team dedicated to minimizing your insurance costs while maximizing your insurance protection. David, please introduce our special guest.
Thank you, Chip. Yes, I appreciate it. We've got our insurance expert, if you will. You've been doing this a long time in a lot of areas. Mr. Michael Luna joining the show with me. So, Mike, thanks for taking time to jump in the studio.
Thanks for having me back.
Absolutely. So, what I want to talk about, if you don't mind today, is actually some of the areas that, well, you recruited a really smart gentleman to our firm by the name of Kyle Schroeder, and I want to talk about some of the classes we have coming up because we actually have 3 opportunities this week for folks to come get educated. 2 of them are going to be around very important topics that's very topical right now because it's open enrollment for Medicare. I briefly want to touch on Medicaid with you, and then I also want to talk about some of the renewals people are getting on their traditional property and casualty insurance, one of the areas that you've helped me and lots of our clients on, understanding these rate increases that are coming that are pretty much astronomical. I mean, it's so common now to see people get 30% rate hikes on their homeowners policies, their auto policies, et cetera. It's just it's a crazy world. So just talk about in general the insurance world, what you're seeing.
It's unlike anything I've ever seen or experienced. And I've been doing this, for a dozen years now. So I've seen a lot of different years, different insurance cycles, but this is unlike any, and it just really comes down to inflation. It is driving the costs of not only health, related things, hospital bills, so on and so forth, but to replace, your house and the materials and even a bumper on a car it's astronomical right now.
Well, there was actually an article in the New York Times by someone who was trying to, yes, the Biden administration has done its job with the Inflation Protection Act and gotten inflation down. But then she surveyed her own Gen Z. This was a very young reporter at the New York Times. And they're like, well, why am I still paying 25% more than I was 3 years ago for everything? I'm like, oh, you don't understand. It's still inflating at 3% versus 10% last year, which means you're paying a lot more for stuff. And that is really putting a cramp in people's styles, and we're seeing it across the board, including insurance. And insurance is what we call the hidden inflation because it's not even calculated in the CPI. So what people pay for this is not part of that calculation, and we're seeing it. We're going to see it in this right now. Companies are going to be paying more for benefits. You gave me our health benefits and almost made me have some issues. My blood pressure went up when you showed me what my health insurance renewal was for our employees. And so this is across the board. So people need to be aware of what's going on. So let's focus real quick because it's open enrollment for Medicare. And people are getting bumps in their Medicare premiums if they're on what's called supplemental policies or drug cards, Part D. And even folks that are in these Advantage plans that people are like, oh, I want that because it's free. And again, we always stress it's never free. It comes with a 0 premium, at least currently, but it has a lot of out-of-pocket costs. And they can yank those away. So there was a recent Medicare Advantages basically got yanked from a lot of people. Was it in California? Where'd that happen?
Yep. A health system in California basically said, we're not accepting these any longer. So it'd be like, for instance, CHI here just saying, if you have a Med Advantage plan or a plan, we will not work with you.
Yep. So, and the reason is the reimbursement rates, folks. So this is how they get paid to provide you services, et cetera. And if they can't do it profitably, then they're not going to. The carrier is typically the one that benefits there. That's just my humble opinion. But Medicare Advantage plans are very attractive to people in the beginning because they have these 0 premiums, and people think, oh, I want that, and I'm very happy with it. And now people are getting grocery benefits with some of these plans. Yeah. They're getting a couple $100 a month in free groceries. And I'm like, why do you think they're incentivizing you to sign up for these, right? It's boxing you into very low flexibility and very few choices, as in the example you just gave in California. Well, you can't go to that hospital. You now have to drive across town to this other hospital because of the coverage you chose. Where if you choose a supplemental policy. And so we explain all this in the class. We'll give you the info on the class this week. But during the class, we explain the 4 main parts, A, B, C, D of Medicare, how they work, how you pay for them. But you're going to sign up for what's called Medicare Part B, typically. You're going to be paying about $175 a month to start, unless your income is higher, to access it. But then on top of that, you have to make a decision to self-insure, which can be dangerous because there's no cap, to use a supplemental policy, which is typically what most of our clients choose, or to use an Advantage plan. And you have the choice, but you need to make sure you're educated before you make the choice. So during the ABCs of Medicare class, we've got you, we have Kyle Schroeder, we have Dustin Galvin, one of our financial advisors that kind of runs that class. But we added Kyle to the mix last month, and we got raving reviews from everybody that came to that class. So tell me a little about your relationship with Kyle and how long you guys have known each other.
So we actually went to the same high school, and he's a few years older than I am. So he knew my older brother, older sister, and so small town of Aurora, Nebraska. Everybody, right? So Kyle and I have known each other for quite a few years now, but he's been in the Medicare industry for
like
well
15
over
years or something, right?
Yeah. So he is so well versed in it and just knowledgeable in kind of directing people on which ways to go.
Well, listen, if you're listening out there and you're all set, it may still behoove you just to have him run some quotes, especially on the drug cards. Now, this is an area I'm pretty well versed on how Medicare works, because I've paid attention for years. And so typically I recommend people have what's called a Plan G. But I didn't really get into the weeds on the drug cards that much. Kyle knows the Part D plans inside and out. In fact, he sat down with a couple of my clients. One of them saved over $5,000 out of pocket for 2024 on their estimated expenses just by switching the drug card. Another one saved over $3,000. And he's also got folks that are like me that don't take medications. There's a drug card he's brought to our attention this year that is only 50 cents a month.
Yeah.
You heard that right. 50 cents a month premium. Now, again, you need to understand all the ins and outs before you look for or choose these things, but this is why we put on these classes so you can get educated and make a decision. When are those Medicare classes here coming up?
Next Tuesday, the 14th, and Wednesday, the 15th at 6:30.
So that's 6:30 p.m. at the Midwest Learning Center, which is right here on the same floor as our office on the 4th floor of the Belmont Plaza. But you do need to register. These classes do fill up. So you would call 402-369-7777 to get registered, or you can go to retiresmartomaha.com and click on the events tab and register for the class. But you would want to get registered because these will fill up, and you will have only a few weeks left. Open enrollment closes December 7th, and then you will be locked basically for another year with whatever decisions you have made. So whether you're turning 65 or you're already on Medicare, this class would be appropriate for you most likely. Now, on Thursday night, so we're going to have Dustin and Kyle running the Medicare classes Tuesday and Wednesday. You're doing a class Thursday, I think morning and Thursday night.
Yep.
On we call it Smart Insurance, and this is where you help people understand how their coverage on their home, their auto, umbrella policies, and why they're seeing these outrageous premium increases. And you talk about what you can do to potentially reduce those premiums there, right?
Yeah, we break down the auto policy, what the coverages actually cover and what they don't. But the big thing I think people take out of it is current events, like what's coming in the near future for them. How are they going to be impacted by what's going on around them? And so we go over current events and different reasons as to why they're seeing 30+% increases on their renewal policies.
Man, that's just, and it's hard to take when you do that. And folks, I own several rental properties. When you get all these renewals on all your rentals, you realize that, you're paying tens of thousands of dollars more the next year for a product that you don't really get any value out of unless you actually have to have a claim. And so it can be very frustrating. And for people that are on a tight budget because of the inflationary pressures of the economy these last several years, this is the breaking point for some. In fact, Chip and I talked about on a couple shows recently that there are a lot of people that are just foregoing the insurance entirely, and that's a really tough decision to make. But I understand if it's that much pressure. But you can talk to those folks as well. Hey, you can just crank your deductible way up, and just take some what we call pure catastrophic coverage and self-insure for temporary damage, that kind of thing, right?
Yeah, and there's different ways to write a policy on a home or a rental dwelling, whatever it may be, and that's what we try to get across is, hey, you can make some changes, you can tailor the policy to to exactly what you want and not buy all the other bells and whistles.
Yep, and there's a lot of bells and whistles that can get thrown into policies that can tweak the premium up a little bit here, a little bit there, but at the end of the day, it ends up adding 10 to 15% to the policy sometimes. So the Smart Insurance Planning class that'll be taught here by Mike Luna will be Thursday morning, November 16th at 10 a.m. or that evening at 6:30 p.m. So trying to make it as convenient possible. There's 4 opportunities this week, folks, to get educated on Medicare or insurance. And dude, time is flying here, but I just want to briefly talk about how you're also able to help people on the Medicaid side, because that's something that most, even Medicare agents, don't understand what to do. And what I'm talking about, folks, is we can protect assets of you, your spouse, or even your parents that are about to enter or have already entered a facility like a nursing home, assisted living facility, or full-blown nursing care, because there are spend down limits and there's a 5-year look back, but you can still protect a large chunk of assets, but you must be proactive in the planning. And talk a little bit about how you guys do that.
There's different strategies that Medicaid, the state of Nebraska, and each state's different, that they allow. And there's very few of them, but they'll kind of overlook them and say, okay, you meet the qualifications and the spend down limits. And that's really what we try to do is, keep as much money out of the nursing home's hands as we can and protected for the spouse or the next generation, whatever it may be. But it's a good segue because we actually have a class on December 9th.
Oh, so there's another educational opportunity.
Yeah.
We'll be talking about it here coming up in a couple of weeks, I'm sure. December 9th, there's a class just for that, for the Medicaid plannings, whether that's for you or for your parents, whether they're already in a home or you think they may be looking to go into one in the future. The earlier you start planning, the more assets that can be protected through a myriad of strategies, Medicaid trust planning, Medicaid compliant annuities. There's all kinds of things that can be put in place to reduce the spend down requirements by the state. Man, we are out of time, Michael. So folks, take advantage of the educational opportunities. We get raving reviews from our current clients. Then usually about half the room in every one of these classes is typically our clients, because we're continually trying to educate them on topics that help them have a better understanding of their overall holistic smart plan. So thanks for stepping in this week, Mike. We'll talk to you next time.
Thank you.
All right, Chip, what do we got next?
Up next, you have questions. David Brooks has answers. Q&A is next on Retire Smart with David Brooks. Welcome back to Retire Smart with David Brooks. I'm Chip Maxwell. Into the Q&A we go. David, the first question is about 401ks. I saw a news article about IBM scrapping its 401k matching program in favor of a different benefit. The employees didn't seem happy. Would they have been better off with the 401k match? How did that play out, David?
All right, so what we're talking about is basically IBM is killing the match to their 401k, and what they're replacing is they're basically launching a new benefit program, and they're not launching an old-fashioned pension. So understand real quickly, there's defined benefit plans. These are pensions, so you get a defined benefit. If you work here 20 years, we'll pay you 60% of your salary, right, for life or something. That's a defined benefit, so it's a number, and they usually take your last 3 years' wages and average out and come up with a number. So it's the benefit has been predefined. The problem with those benefits is they're astronomical expense when you live much longer than the actuaries, when they originally came up with the plan, anticipated, and you end up costing the plan 250 to 300% of what they were supposed to spend on you. So the big shift that happened really in the 80s was from defined benefit plans to defined contribution plans. And so for most of you, that's going to be a 401k, a 403b, something like it's a workplace account where if you contribute to it, you make a defined contribution to it, typically, not always, the company would also contribute to the plan. And there's various versions of these SEP IRAs, simple IRAs, there's 457s. There's a lot of different versions depending on the type of employer that you work for, the size and scale. But basically understand is most of them, if you put something in, they would put something in, right? Encouraging you to save for your own retirement. Now, the other thing is you get to control the investments in these defined contribution plans. Primarily, you get to choose them, not 100%, but you typically get to choose how the money is invested so you can try to grow it and compound those earnings over your working career. Then you end up with a dollar amount, a lump sum, if you will, at your end of your career that you now need to go take the care and guidance and learn how, which is what we do. We help people with that lump sum, but figure out what to do with it so it will provide income back out to you when you stop earning the paycheck. So what IBM is doing is they're trying to innovate, and I can't blame them here because we are in these negative times economically. They can't afford even the contribution to their plan with the headcount. So they're creating a new plan where they're going to put dollars into it, but it's not a pension plan. And so the employees are going to end up, from the actuarial data we reviewed, they're going to end up with less money out of this. It's saving the employer money, and that's what the employer's thinking it has to do to stay competitive. So the employees are angrily not happy, and rightly so. But the idea is that, hey, you may not have to contribute as much to it, but you're also not going to have as many choices when it comes to the investments and selections and things like that. So I think this is just the first shot across the bow, Chip, nationwide. I think you're going to see a lot of innovation because companies are going to have to find a way to handle the wage inflation we've seen over the last actually about 6 years. We had consistent wage inflation. Wages are up significantly in the last 6 years in this country. And then you've just seen all these big union labor deals, right? With UAW, FedEx, the Screen Actors Guild, right? Wages are going up for these companies. And so they have to compensate somewhere else, right? There's just, unless they're going to drive the prices of their goods and services up 30 or 40% to cover these costs, what are they going to do? So they're going to cut it from somewhere else. We saw Ford fire people after giving their workers they're keeping a raise, and we saw them offload some more unfortunate work down into Mexico instead of in a U.S. plant. So there's always a counterbalance, a countermeasure that's going to happen from this. So the lesson here is, listen, make sure you're being proactive with your workplace benefits, whatever you have available to, and you understand how the plan works and how it works in your overall plan. If you're working with an independent, fiduciary-based, competent advisor, doesn't have to be us, but whoever you're working with, make sure they understand your workplace account as well, so they can guide you in making the right decisions, not just maybe the few dollars you have invested with them, but the bulk of your retirement assets are in your workplace plan. Make sure you have somebody helping you understand how that works.
David, the next question is about the banking industry. I've heard you talk a lot about turmoil in the banking industry. Then I saw a headline about a $40 billion loss for J.P. Morgan Chase, as well as major financial hits absorbed by Bank of America, Wells Fargo, and Citigroup. We were just talking about Citigroup. Apparently, it has to do with the bond market. What's going on?
Okay, so if you remember back in the spring, we had a couple of major banks fail, right? SVB being the first big one, Silicon Valley Bank. And what happened is these banks, when they take in deposits, they invest the money. That's how a bank makes money. They invest the money, and then they use that money and they make it out on loans and things. So they commit the money to longer maturity instruments, whether they're buying bonds with it, they're loaning it to a business for 10 years. They take the money you deposit daily, and then they go put it to work, and they make a spread. That's how a bank profits off net margin spread. Well, with interest rates being super low, to get any yield or any return, the banks had to extend the maturity of those investments, both in what they bought to back their money markets. So they were buying bonds, treasuries, et cetera. And when interest rates went up, people were pooling their money from the bank, Chip, as it makes sense. You're paying me nothing, and I can go put it in a treasury and get 5%. Give me my $200,000, please, right? And if enough people go to the window, you have a run on the bank, so to speak, and they have to sell their assets to be able to meet the deposits. Banks don't keep the money in the vault, folks. Less than 10% is in their central vaults, and the average community bank has probably less than $100,000 cash in its actual doors in any one day. You have to pre-order if you want to go take out more cash than that. So, because they got to go deliver cash from a home location somewhere. Now, the problem is when they sell these assets, they're selling at a significant loss because interest rates have gone up over the last 2 years significantly. The value of those assets have gone down unless you can hold them to maturity. So now they have to sell them at a discount. A 20-year bond, Chip, so you can look up the ticker, TLT. It's an BlackRock iShares 20-year. It's the most popular ETF tracking the 20-year U.S. Treasury. It's down over 50% in the last 18 months. 50% down in value. U.S. Treasury, right? And that's what's hitting these banks is they own that stuff. They own the U.S. Treasury that are down 50% in value. And then if you come pulling your money out of the bank, as what happened to SVB, you have to sell those assets at a major discount. Well, you're insolvent. And so but in my humble opinion, this is just my research. I don't have any links to back. I believe there's over 300 banks that are insolvent today in America, completely insolvent.
Well, so let me ask you. Well, first of all, I can't get my brain wrapped around U.S. Treasuries bonds. That's supposed to be the solid rock of the investment world.
And it still is, Chip. So I want to make sure we don't scare people here, right?
Yes.
Let's clarify this. Ledge. So if you hold it to maturity, you get your principal back, and you get paid the interest each year.
All right.
But if you sell in the meantime, you sell it at market value. And when interest rates go up, bond prices go down. It's an inverse relationship. Now, unfortunately, we just had a local bank here over in Iowa, Citizens Bank, basically just went under this past week. And they had a lot of loans out, in particular, to the trucking industry and the shipping industry, which, as we just talked about, is not doing so well. So again, people wonder, is my money safe in the bank? Yes. FDIC insurance has never failed. Now, the scary part is there's not enough. They couldn't backstop every bank in the country. But you should know who your relationship is with your bank. And if you're looking for alternatives, we can talk about those type of things as well. So just make sure, again, this is why you work with competent, independent fiduciary-based advisors that can give you just straight advice on whether it's where you're depositing your cash at a credit union or a bank. I talk about it all the time. I prefer credit unions over banks for my daily, my personal daily operating checking account, saving account, things like that, because when I'm a mutual depositor, I'm a mutual member, I'm an owner, if you will, of the organization. They are there to do good for the mutual community, where a bank is owned by a stock and or answers to a board, right? Very different. So think those things through. I know we're out of time on Q&A, but these are the reasons we set up the 15-minute discovery calls where you can ask one of our advisors questions just like these. What should I do with my cash? What should I do for year-end tax planning? Any question you have, we've got 10 of those available this week. We've moved some calendars around just to be able to accommodate folks because we get so busy at year-end. So take advantage and get your questions answered.
10 is a lot, but they fill up. 402-369-7777. No charge, no obligation. A discovery call with one of our licensed financial advisors. 402-369-7777. Up next, Uncle Sam resumed collection of student debt payments. One student got a monthly bill for over $100,000. We'll tell you about it next on Retire Smart with David Brooks. Welcome back to Retire Smart with David Brooks. I'm Chip Maxwell. Well, David, here's the CNBC headline. As student loan payments restart, one borrower got a $108,895 monthly bill. Well, at least the bills are going out again, but apparently the bureaucracy still needs to be smoothed out a little.
Yeah, imagine the government making a mistake. That's weird, right? So what happens, obviously, there's going to be clerical errors. There's going to be all kinds of problems. Over 21,000, at least according to the article, people got inherently high bills that were incorrect, and some of them over $100,000. Hey, this is what's due tomorrow. Like, wait, what? And, but more importantly, when you dig into the story, there was a lady who had a payment of $130. That was her student loan payment monthly prior to the pandemic. They froze it, and now her payment's $358.
Now that hurts.
Yeah,
when you don't have a lot of margin at that stage of your life,
and so people need to understand. Listen, when you defer debt, you don't always get the interest rate deferral. And what happened is that it was a mistake. They calculated the interest still accruing and kicked it out to her. And again, this is the power of understanding why you don't want to let your debts just keep growing. Our government, because it becomes a problem. And according to the new, where you pay a percent of your income, her payment was supposed to be somewhere around $45 or something, if I remember the article correctly. But the problem is this is hitting people, Chip, when they can least afford it. The cash has run out. All the pandemic cash, the household savings numbers, we've never seen the decline in M2 money supply like we've seen over the llast year. The extra cash, the discretionary income that people had is gone. Now they have additional payments like these, and the average student loan payment's over $230 that has resumed. So that's money that's not going to go in the economy for other things. Now, we don't have a story on this, Chip, but people don't realize there was also over 2 million mortgage holders that had moratoriums that were given to them. They didn't have to make their mortgage payment for the last 2 years. That accrued interest, you just got it. And that's done. Hurt. Yeah. So that's why I say there's a coming storm in the housing market we're going to see most likely next year. And so people need to be paying attention to what's going on. But bottom line is, don't borrow more than you can afford to pay back, period. And if you walk out of college, I keep telling people, how much should I let my kid borrow? I was like, listen, I understand sometimes higher education costs money. And is it worth it? Well, the data says it is. I mean, that's just statistical data, but I would argue not for all degrees, right? Go to college for something you can actually, use applicable and is going to get you into. But if you graduate with more debt than you're going to earn your first year out of college, you probably have too much student loan debt, and you're going to be buried under it for decades. And that just brings no joy to you in your profession if you're a slave to the 9 to 5 just to pay the debt of the education you got over a 4-year or 7-year period of time.
David, you said there's a storm coming in the housing industry. There seems to be already a storm that has broken in the real estate industry. You keep feeding me these headlines, David, and they keep making my head spin. One of them is from The Real Deal, or a real estate website. Meridian Capital under investigation by Freddie Mac. Freddie Mac, one of the federal lending agencies, mortgage agencies. And then a couple from CNBC. National Association of Realtors CEO quits earlier than expected after federal lawsuit. And then how the cost of home buying and selling will change after landmark court loss over real estate commissions. David, what is happening? You love real estate as an investment, so I know you track this industry closely. What is going on?
All right, so you threw a lot at me there, so let's knock out the first one first. So
All right.
Meridian Capital was one of the largest commercial mortgage brokers out there. So that's who, like, if you had a local mortgage broker here in town, and understand you have basically mortgage lenders and mortgage brokers. A lender is the one making the loan. They themselves are making they underwrite it, they sell you the mortgage, if you will, and they then they made the decision it was their capital they put up. A broker doesn't put any of their own capital into the mortgage. They go broker the mortgage and they shop it with multiple commercial lenders that buy packages of these billions at a time, so they kind of package them together. And so the broker's argument would be that they can shop and get you a better deal. The lender's argument is, hey, we're making the decision right here. So there's pros and cons to both sides of that coin, but a lot of people don't know the difference, number one. So sometimes you're working with a mortgage lender. Sometimes you might be working with a mortgage broker. Well, the mortgage brokers would then go to a company like Meridian Capital. This was one of the large commercial brokers behind it that would be funding those loans and packaging them up and selling them off. And they are under investigation by Freddie Mac and it could be Fannie Mae. And so these are the government loans, right? Freddie and Fannie loans are the one, FHA loans, things like this. These are the common loans to help people get it, especially first-time home buyers. It seems that they may have fudged some data, in other words, to get loans through the system. And this scarily, hopefully, and of course, when you see one story, it's usually the tip of the iceberg, right? But this is what kind of led to the downturn of the great fiscal crisis, is we had mortgages that did not have good data backing them. And so hopefully this isn't the start of that, but that's really scary that one of the largest commercial lenders out there has got bad data on their books and it's already been investigated. And, they were trying to keep this quiet, but the government is fully investigating them. Now, let me pivot to the real estate stories that matter even more, right? A landmark case in the Kansas City, Missouri market. Basically, a lawyer challenged and said, basically, you were fixing prices. The National Association of Realtors fixing prices, and they sought a $1.7 billion verdict. That's what they said the damages were to the people they signed up in this basically class action lawsuit, saying you're freezing commissions at the 6 or 7%, whatever the number was, right? You're fixing commissions, right? And that is a problem. And then when you kick back the half that commission to the buy side, they're arguing that is a kickback under RESPA laws, just like you can't legally kick back to the title company in most states or the attorney that's closing it, right? They're saying it's kickback. And the jury found for them. And nobody thought this would happen. Nobody even thought it would get to this point. They thought they would settle this for $50 million and it would go away. Not only did they give them the $1.7 billion verdict, they added punitive damage. The total's over $5 billion. Now that's going to be appealed, obviously, right? And it's going to take a couple more years to come unwound. But immediately, the CEO of NAR, the National Association of Realtors, stepped down. He blew it.
Okay, so that's the federal lawsuit referred to in that story's headline. It was this one you're talking
Correct,
about now
yes,
that basically forced him out.
And what you're going to see is you're going to see the implosion of the real estate industry as it's currently set up and the compensation model. And listen, if you're realtors out there, my wife was a realtor. I've had a license for many years just for my own dealings typically, but my wife was a realtor and she lived on the commissions from buying and selling homes, et cetera. Listen, that model is going to change, and it's going to be changing rapidly. And most realtors, and I have several of them that are clients, so I'll probably get calls, but they're, oh, no, it's going to be fine. No, it's not. You're going through a revolution, and disruptive technology is going to change this because there's no longer going to be okay for you to just say, well, it's 6% in Nevada, so it's going to be 6% here, and people are going to get competitive, and somebody's going to innovate and start to push down the prices of real estate. My wife actually worked for a broker at one time, and he charged a flat fee and then just the buy side. So he would charge 3% commission plus a flat fee because he thought it was too much. through technology, I mean, let's face it, you can view a home virtually today. So is it worth paying the real estate person that 7% commission or whatever it is? If you can look online, you can, I mean, 90% of the research is done before you ever left your home. And so that is driving technology down. And now we've seen big organizations, and the reason the National Association of Realtors, and when someone says they're a realtor, and it's realtor, not realtor, right? So there's no I in there. Realtor is a trademark from the National Association of Realtors. Most of the big firms, RE/MAX, Central, required you, if you hung your license with them as an agent, you must join the association. So it was a forced dues situation. And I don't know what their current dues, probably $400 or $500 a year, but they were forced to do this. Well, RE/MAX was the first big one that said you don't have to join because they knew what's going on. So you're going to have agents no longer pay the dues. And if they don't feel like they get a benefit from this, why would they pay the money? So this organization may just implode right before our very eyes. We'll see what, there's going to be a lot of fallout. So we'll follow up on this story, but it is going to change the face of real estate transactions. The good news is it's going to change the cost structure and reduce the expenses for the consumer in real estate transactions, I predict, by 50% within 3 to 5 years.
Well, we've run our course for this week, but we'd love to see you at the ABCs of Medicare Tuesday, November 14th or Wednesday, November 15th, 6:30 p.m. right here in the Midwest Learning Center at Retire Smart. You can join us Thursday, November 16th, if you want to, for Smart Insurance Planning. That's at 10 a.m. or 6:30 p.m., also in the Midwest Learning Center. This is for the general public as well as clients, but we need to know if you're coming. 402-369-7777. No charge, no obligation. 402-369-7777. David, bring us home.
Hey, have a blessed and gracious week. Enjoy this awesome weather.
Thank you for listening to Retire Smart with David Brooks. I'm Chip Maxwell. For David Brooks and the entire team at Retire Smart, have a great week.